Listen to a little Faith No More. Hey guys, this episode is going to be a little bit off topic from survival, but it's going to be about security. And that kind of relates to everybody, especially if you own a business, especially if you own property. And I think that security is more prevalent and important today than it ever has been before. Because when you look at the political climate of the United States, and as well as other countries like Australia, we have a lot of issues where security is needed. And so this episode is going to target some of the biggest failures security companies make that private patrol operators, such as in California, as well as other states, make when running a security company. And I see this through observation. I see this quite often being made with a security company, and they're just mistakes that can be managed, and it could be kind of resolved in the HR department. It could be solved in the marketing department. It could be solved with the supervisors in the field. But we're going to cover different things. I'm not really sure how long this episode's going to be. I'm probably going to try to keep it to around 45 minutes to no longer than an hour. But so let's start off with the biggest thing. Officers in a uniform at the client's property expected to do a job performance and also expected to be competent in that performance, and how they fall short. Okay, so one thing is officers' uniform wear and appearance. Just like on a police department, just like in the military, just like in pretty much any job, being a security officer, you need to be properly dressed. You can't be sloppy. Tuck your shirt in, have clean clothes, be groomed. I know that in the civilian sector, which is quite a bit different than in government or the military, or even for a police department or whatever, grooming standards may or may not be enforced. But think of it this way. When your employees, as a security company owner, a PPO, look good, look professional, they get treated better by the public. They get treated better by the client. When your uniform fits you, that's a big thing. I see a lot of security out there where their uniform really doesn't fit them, and it looks pretty cheap. I know that you, being a security company owner, are trying to save some money, but do uniform inspections. Make sure not only that the officer's in the appropriate uniform that you put out for your company, but make sure that uniform fits them. Make sure it's not too tight and not too baggy. Make sure their pants are hemmed, because they represent your dream. You started a business to be successful, and in order to do so, you have to rely on other people. Well, those other people are your security officers, and they are your ambassadors, and they represent your patch, your logo, your badge, your image. And so you need to, maybe invest a little bit, but make sure that your officers don't look sloppy in the uniform. Now, I see security companies that are very squared away. I see security companies that have highly trained officers with experience, and they're armed. They have a firearm, they have baton or expandable ass baton, or they'll have pepper spray or mace. I prefer pepper spray over mace, but that's my personal preference. I prefer the expandable ass baton, riot baton. That's my personal preference. I believe if you're carrying a gun in today's climate, you need to also carry escalations of force. And the first one that I would add to that would be a taser. So, encourage your officers to get a taser. Make sure that your officer's body armor is not expired. Make sure that they have adequate body armor, that they're just not wearing a level 2. Make sure they're wearing, the best body armor out there, or encourage them to get that and explain to them why, and show them videos, or have an expert or a company spokesperson come in and talk about it, because their life is in the balance. Now they have bulletproof vests that are not just bulletproof, but they're also stab proof. And they just have better technology with vests as well. They're more breathable. I remember wearing a bulletproof vest by Armadillo, and it would be the summertime and it was hot. And then also cleaning your vests. You want to get that sweat, that salt, those oils that you perspire, that soak into the fabric of your vest. You want to get it out. You want to clean your vest material. Because if you leave it sitting in there so long, it could break it down, and you don't want that breaking it down, because it's acidic. So, but uniform wear and appearance. If you have a company policy, put it in writing. Put it in the employee handbook, and then put it out in the policy memo. Make sure everybody gets it, and give it an effective date, okay? And then effective this date is when this takes effect. And if you don't meet that policy, then you could possibly be put on suspension, or you can get a write-up, but you need to enforce that. But it needs to be in writing. It needs to be common knowledge, general knowledge, and it needs to be disseminated out with the, obvious exemptions, that, because you obviously don't want to get litigated against, be sued, suffer some liability because of, employee discrimination kind of things, like involving religion and stuff. So that's the other thing. We don't want to discriminate anybody. It's equal opportunity employment, but like California, it's at will, at higher will. It's kind of a state. You don't really need a reason to terminate. You could just terminate somebody, but you can also be sued for wrongful termination. So, such as if someone says they're pregnant and they give you a notice, and then all of a sudden they're fired, they could probably have a lawsuit against you. So, be cognitive. Your HR department should be taking care of that. Your supervisors in the field should be doing uniform wear and appearance checks. They should be checking the knowledge of your officers, making sure that if you're using an app, that the officers know how to use the app, especially if they're new to your company, that they understand how to function and use it, and how to write a report, a sworn statement. That's the other thing is, I see security companies where the officers, they don't have any training at all. They have no training on how to write a sworn statement. What if something happened and they have to write a sworn statement and submit it to the police department? Because that is the job of security, at the bare minimum, is to observe and report. Your security officers should be considered expert witnesses, or professional witnesses, or experienced witnesses. They should be able to observe and report. They should know what to look for. They should be able to give a description of a suspect, from hair color, eye color, skin complexion, what they're wearing from head to toe, their hat, if they're wearing a hat, facial hair, if they have facial hair, their eye color, if they have, if they're not wearing sunglasses, they can see the eye color, and then, their color of their shirt or their jacket or whatever it is that they're wearing, what kind of pants they are wearing, or shorts, or what color, what kind of shoes were they wearing, what color shoes, what brand, what were any identifying indicators on their garments. Was there a jersey? Was there a number? Was there a name? A good description, how tall the person was. If you live in a place where they do metric, then obviously you want to use metric. But if you live in the United States, it's going to be how many feet tall and inches were they, and then that person should be able to kind of estimate how tall somebody is, because they should know how tall they are, and they could determine if that person is taller than them by 1 foot, or a foot and a half, or if that person is shorter or the same height. It should be able to determine, pretty close to what their body weight would be, their stature, and did this person possess any items? Did this person have a weapon? Did this person have a backpack? What kind of backpack was it? Do you know who the brand name of the backpack? So these are all things that come with training and experience, but the supervisors should be kind of running the mill with these officers on how to do that. The other thing is discipline. The supervisors need to, one, be the example of what is supposed to be. When you have your supervisor coming in looking just as messed up as the officers will have no respect for the supervisor. And so you as the owner, you want to make sure that your managers and security supervisors are up to standard, setting the example, have the knowledge, have the proper behavior, have the proper experience to be a supervisor. If you're just running a company and you're hiring your buddy or your sister's husband, but the guy's, his heart's not in the game, well, you might have somebody else that's more qualified to be a supervisor that does have his heart in the game and would have a lot more to offer the company instead of giving your sister's husband the hookup, on a job, and the guy doesn't even really appreciate it. You know what I mean? So this is a company, a business, and what's going to happen is if you run your company like that, you're going to chase away all your good people. And you're going to end up with nothing but, people that don't want to be there, people that are going to be late to work, people that are going to sleep in their car, people that are going to wander away from their post, that's, kind of going to do their own thing when they want to do it. And then that's going to be observed by who? The client. And then what's going to happen is the client's going to start keeping a journal, or the client's going to start complaining, or the client's going to find another company to sign a contract with and deal with you in court. Because there's companies out there that make so much money, that have such a big legal team, you wouldn't be able to fend them off with you and your lawyer. You could take them to court all you want, but if all they can prove is that you defaulted on your contract because you were providing them officers that were showing up late to duty, were falling asleep on duty, were sitting in their car instead of at their post, wandering off, whatever the agreements are with you and the client, and that client can prove it, then you're going to have a hard time winning in court anyway, because they can argue that you breached the contract first. So, and they are in a position where they must have security. So you guys, if you're running a company, you especially if your company's small and you're not micromanaging your company, you being the owner aren't getting out there at least one day a week into the field, checking on your employees, and also checking on your supervisors, and getting your hands dirty for one night a week or one day a week, getting out there, then you're not taking your business serious. And I see examples of that currently, and it's it's a sad revelation, but that's what I see. And, I've been doing this for 24 years. I have security companies, owners that they know they have access to me and my knowledge, but they don't use it. They don't use it at all. And if they did, they would be a lot more successful. They would keep contracts. They would also hire better quality people to work for them. I know that in security, you just want to put a warm body in a uniform and put them at a doorway or at a gate or in a car lot or in a construction yard or wherever, and hope that person will want to keep their job by showing up on time and doing what they're supposed to. But a lot of times that doesn't happen, because I see the HR department, the recruiting department, just putting anybody, and they're going to just get people that either don't want to be there, don't care, have other interests going on, and this is just, they're not taking this job serious, and they're more dedicated to the other things they have going on. This is just something temporary for them. Of course, when they get hired by you and they're interviewing with you, they might not come right on out and say that, because they do still want to make the money. But then again, I see good officers being scared away from your companies that do that kind of thing, because, like, for example, you'll have a security officer is very dedicated. They'll get there on time, They'll look professional in a uniform. They have all the knowledge in the world to do the job, and plus some. And then when it comes to the end of their shift, their relief doesn't show up. And then that officer is staying past the time that they wanted to go home. They could have prior commitments. They could have a child that's got to be in school, and they got to get home, get their kid ready, and take them to school. They don't have time to be stuck at the property, at the site, doing instead of an 8-hour shift, doing a on-the-spot 10, 12, 16-hour shift. I've had to do doubles, on a spur of the moment, drop of the dime, so that the client wouldn't be lost, the contract wouldn't be lost, and without any notice, go and have to do a double. I've had in the past had to do a triple shift, which is a 24-hour shift, and I believe I've worked as long as 32 hours in the security industry covering shifts because people were calling off, or people were sick, or just not showing no-shows, and I've had to do that in the past, and it's not fun, because to me, the money's not worth it, really, to do that many hours, because you end up paying more taxes out of that paycheck, and so the officer ends up just kind of like working to pay taxes, and that's not cool. So, some of the things that I see with security companies that are failures is they get complacent, they stop contract hunting, and then they wonder why, when they lose a contract, it devastates the whole company, and they have to let a bunch of people go. You should be constantly putting your nose out there, sniffing out new possible clients and contracts, and you could even use outsiders like me. You can ask me to go contract hunting for you. Of course, I'm going to have you sign a contract agreement with me before I give you a contract, agreeing that every contract I hand to you that you accept, that you will pay me a finder's fee, or you're going to get sued if you don't, because it's going to be in writing. And the contract will be drawn up by an attorney that represents my interests, because I'm the one out there providing you the service, being the contract hunter. You're gonna provide me a finder's fee, and I'll give you a list of options for paying that finder's fee. It could be a one lump sum, or it could be spaced out over a period of time. But it's not going to be. It's going to be as a freelancer. It's not going to be as an employee. You're not going to put it onto my paycheck or anything like that. Even if I work for the security company, it's not in my line of duty to contract hunt for you and just do it by the hourly, because I could find you a $2 million contract and you're going to pay me $20, $30 an hour, $35 an hour, and you're making a $2 million contract, and it doesn't work that way in the business world. So that's not going to happen. So if you're going to go out there and do contract hunting and land big contracts, shopping malls, apartment complexes, luxury high-rise hotels, or residential buildings, or car dealerships, or whatever, office building, tech companies, private properties, even private residentials, even motels and hotels and liquor stores, whatever. If you're going to do contract hunting for a company, you have that company sign a contract with you for the service of contract hunting, that they agree every contract you send them. And before you give them the contract, for each contract that you hand them over, before you hand it, they agree that they're accepting this on the terms of providing you your finder's fee if they close the deal. So, and if they close the deal, then you sit with the lawyer and talk to that lawyer about how to iron that out, so that way you're protected, because you don't want them closing the deal behind your back without your knowledge. So it needs to be fully go through you. You're going to be the caretaker of closing that contract out for that company. And then once they sign over that contract with that company, then that goes on to them. It is no longer your job to retain that contract for them. You're not there to maintenance it unless they want to pay you an additional fee for maintenance it. And then that's going to be an additional cost at a weekly basis. and you're going to have to record how much time you spend with that client, keeping that client happy and being the go-between that company and the client. But that's a lot of work, and that could really tie you up with if you get a few contracts like that. Yeah, you could be spread thin real quick and not have time to do anything else. So I really advise to avoid getting into being the middleman. You're just there, just find the contracts, sign it with the security company, and get the client, their prospective client, to sign it, and then you get your finder's fee. It's that easy. But always see a lawyer. See a lawyer that has experience with the security industry, that knows about private patrol operator companies or personal protective services, like bodyguard work or whatever, or executive protection, or or whatever. But see a lawyer that has knowledge in that industry, and then in business. So that aside, some of the things that security companies do, which makes a mistake, which really could hurt them, is a security company really needs to focus, especially starting out, and especially if they're privately owned and not corporately owned. They don't have a board of investors and things like that. This is some guy running out there starting his own security company. He needs to focus everything on patrol hit contracts. Meaning, he gets a property here, he gets a property there, he gets a property here, he gets a property there. And he ends up with 20 or 30 contracts to patrol. Well, one patrol car could do at least 40 contracts fairly easily and hit all 40 properties 3 times in a given night. And that patrol should be switching up their patrol every day, not doing a paper route, never doing the same paper route. One day hit it clockwise, other day hit it counterclockwise, and then one day hit it from the 12 o'clock, and then the other day hit it from the 6 o'clock, and just always change it up so that no one knows your routine and never knows exactly what time you're going to arrive. Because if they start memorizing, the criminal element starts memorizing when you're going to be around and when your presence is going to be there. Of course, they're not going to do anything while you're there. They're going to wait for you to leave. So what you want to do is have the element of surprise, come on in and catch them, in the act. If you are having those kind of problems on a property. The biggest thing with security is the presence patrol. It's the deterrence. It's, not being attracted to a property because there's someone right there, that if I break that car window or I break in that door or, whatever, that they could do, because crime is a crime of opportunity, and criminals prefer a soft target versus a hard target. So they're always going to take the path of least resistance. But crime is a crime of opportunity. So, and security could take away that opportunity by just having a strong presence there, and if you have a troubled property, send 2 patrol cars over to the troubled property and show, force, show numbers. Maybe you being the owner need to jump in the, in the front passenger seat, put 2 officers in the back seat, and then have a driver, and 4 of you jump out and maybe bring 1 or 2 cars like that, and go clear out a property, make a big presence. You might make such a big presence that they'll think, oh my God, there's always 8 security guards here, or there's 6 security or 4 security, but there's, more than one. One guy, we could probably take him, but, when there's like 4 or 5 or 6, especially if you're an armed company and you're dealing with a dangerous contract with high crime around it, with people, shootings are pretty common in the area, robbery, burglary, things like that, I see an unarmed security contract just the other day. The guy is walking around. He has no pepper spray, no baton. All he has is a radio, all right, and his fists and his verbal judo. Walking around, and a gentleman who I believe was a transient took a swing at him, and he ducked it, and then one of the employees from inside the location came running out. Happened to have pepper spray in his pocket, pulled it out and sprayed the guy. The guy took off. But the security guard didn't have anything to protect them, So there is a liability with you being the owner of the company when you have unarmed security with zero defense, when they could easily go take a class, or you can organize a class or a training instructor to come to the company, set aside one business day where everybody comes in, by the shift, to the office, or maybe you bring the guy to them. But it'd be better in a conducive environment. You have an instructor come to your office and he teaches a class, break the class up into 3 segments. So that way your graveyard shift could get there, your dog watch shift can get there, your morning shift, your day shift, whatever, can get there. And that way everybody can get trained on pepper spray and baton, and then, because there's security companies out there where they're completely armed, and then there's security companies out there that the officers are not armed, but yet you're still putting them out there where they're like dealing like in San Francisco, where they're dealing with transients, and where the transients are armed. They have knives on them, and they have bats on them. They have they might even have zip guns on them. So it's better that your security officer have a minimum of pepper spray, or a baton, instead of nothing at all. And because calling for help on the radio, that's not necessarily enough, because what if that officer is a solo officer on the site? Who's going to come and rescue him? Is going to be, the front desk clerk? Come on. So, it needs to be, some common sense here, because what happens if that security officer gets injured because he can't defend himself? Then he's going to sue your company and your client, because it was your company and the client that made him get hurt, because you're asking him to perform a function inadequately prepared to defend himself, because you guys are worried about lawsuits. Well, guess what? He just got hurt, and now he's going to sue your company and your client's company, and he's probably going to win. He's probably going to win, because you guys are still expecting him to deal with transients out on the street. All right. So if you want a guy that's observe and report, it's not his job then to truly chase away a transient off your property, and deal with, or the female. It could be a woman, officer. It could be a male officer. It could be, whatever situation. But that officer wearing your uniform needs to be able to, at a minimum, defend themselves with pepper spray. At a minimum, the bare minimum. And pepper spray can be quite effective. I would encourage that if you own a company and you have patrol service, a officer driving a patrol car, and that officer isn't just in the rich neighborhoods, he's driving through pretty much the general Bay Area, or like in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, Richmond, Fremont. A lot of security companies are armed, and a lot of these people know that the guy driving that car carries a gun. But if you're a security company and your security supervisor driving that car, checking on other guards, isn't armed, guess what happens to him if he just happens to turn a corner in some town somewhere, because he's going from one property to the other to check on employees, and he's not an armed officer? He's going to get shot, and he won't be able to defend himself, because they're going to see that marked patrol car, and they're going to be like, oh, God, I just got done robbing this place. He's probably security. They'll just make assumptions, and their first assumption is that guy's a threat to me. That guy could, shoot me. That guy could arrest me. That guy's probably coming for me, because there's a lot of proactive security out there in the Bay Area where I'm from, around the United States. And a lot of people assume, oh, that's a security patrol company. They don't know every single patrol company, which one's armed, which one's not. They just assume that, oh, there comes a security patrol, private patrol. That guy's probably armed. He's a threat to me. And start opening up fire. And your guy is an unarmed guy driving a patrol car, because he got hired because he's married to your sister. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So your security patrol drivers and security patrol supervisors ought to be armed. They need to have escalations of force. If you're going to arm an officer in today's climate, I would really recommend considering as a security officer not wearing body cam, because you're not a police department. And body cam footage can be used against you in a court of law. And since you're not there to regulate your officers every day and every moment, at every shift change, I wouldn't recommend putting body cam footage on your officers unless they have active supervision in the field. Even if they're patrol drivers, that there's always a supervisor bouncing between, ready to respond to any place that a patrol driver gets into where he needs to engage someone, and the supervisor's going to head on straight on over, but everybody that's wearing a gun should have a taser. That way you're adding that escalations of force, and you should have baton, you should have pepper spray, you should have the taser, you should have a firearm, and you should be highly trained in verbal judo, and you should know the penal code. You should know the health and safety code. You should, you don't really need to worry about the vehicle code, because none of you have any business doing vehicle enforcement, on the streets. But you could do parking enforcement, and that should be all covered in the lease of the property or posted signs and things like that. But think about, adding the taser. Your officers, if you're going to carry a gun, the officers should be carrying a taser as well, because it's a lot easier to tase someone than get in a fist fight. All right. Even with the baton, you're still combative. You're getting close to the guy. The guy could grab your baton from you, and now he has a baton, which is considered a deadly weapon when put in the non-trained hands, because a security officer or police officer knows you don't head strike someone in the head with a baton. They know that you don't hit them in the chest with a baton, and they know you don't hit them in the neck with a baton. But a suspect gets your baton, he's probably going to hit you in the head first. He's probably going to hit you in the face first. He's probably going to go for your neck. He's going to try to smash you in the face. Whereas you're trained, and your instinct is to hit them in the arms and legs. You know what I mean? To subdue them. So what happens is now that baton becomes a deadly weapon in the hands of the suspect, because his intent is to hurt you with it. All right. And then if you don't have a taser, your next step is to go to escalate up to the next force. So he already took that force of escalation from you when he grabbed your baton or your asp from you. All right. And so now you're being forced to pull your gun. All right. Or let him flee. One of the two. But it depends on what he's wanted for. What if he just killed somebody? So, now he's got your baton. So adding the taser really changed the ball game for security and law enforcement. Instead of getting in a fist fight, instead of grappling on the ground, now they just tase him. Another officer comes in, renders aid, and cuffs the guy up, and and you can tell the guy, hey, I'll stop tasing you if you agree to comply, and always, whenever using force, always shout out, stop resisting. Please, sir, please, ma'am, stop resisting. Stop resisting. Please stop resisting. Please stop resisting. All right? And say it loud. You're not saying it for the camera. You're saying it for the witnesses standing by. All right? Because then they're going to be like, well, what was the officer doing? Well, he kept saying, stop resisting. Was the guy resisting? I think so, or I don't know. Everybody's going to have an opinion. And the ones that are anti-badge, anti-cop, anti-security, they're always going to go against you. So that's where the stop resisting, verbalize it, all right? Yell it a little louder than you normally would. Don't mumble it. Say, stop resisting, because you get that on camera. You get a couple witnesses that will say, yeah, well, the officer said he kept resisting, so I guess the guy was fighting him, or you can summons for help by somebody it seems like they're there to help you. You can summons for help if you have that option available for you. Like if I've been on the beat where I walk past cops arresting somebody. I just come around a corner, but I'm on patrol. They see me, they're like, hey, come over here and help us, and we need your help. I'll run right over there and help them, cuff the guy up. And if I see them doing something illegal, of course I'm gonna be like, no, I don't want part of that. You guys shouldn't be kicking the guy when he's down or whatever. But fortunately for me, I've never seen that in person. I've never seen police brutality in person, but I have seen it on video in abundance, like on YouTube and in the news. So I do know it does happen. And if you see officer abuse that's unjustified, you need to report it right away to your supervisor that happened, and or to the police department. You need to report that because that's one of the biggest issues. Is we need to make police brutality and abuse of the public unattractive because of video cameras and stuff like that. There's a lot of abuse that goes on in law enforcement, and I'm sure there is also some that go on in security industry. And there's no one thing that can destroy a company faster than having those allegations brought against your company and your officers. You could get a big giant lawsuit. So that's why supervision is so important, is because when your eyes and ears are out there supervising your supervisors, who should be supervising your officers, just don't promote someone. Go out there and see how they supervise. Because when I was in the Army, I learned a lot about leadership. All right, and I learned, hey, look, you show leadership potential, and I'm going to promote you on that potential. Then I'm going to watch you when you become a leader, how you are and how you behave as a leader, and how you function, and how you mentor and train and teach and lead. And I'm going to watch how you do it. If you do it to the Army standard, you do it to my standard, or you do it to the correct standard. Because I need to make sure that I promoted the right guy. Because some people will put on a really good front to get there, and then once they get there, they kick back and they're lousy. All right, and you see it all the time in almost any career. The guy worked really hard, got promoted, and then started slacking off. So we don't need slackers in leadership positions. And sometimes just doing a trial and error. Hey, I'm gonna appoint you into a position of leadership, and I'm gonna test you out in it, see if you can handle it. And if you can handle it after like 90 days, and I can see that you're doing great, and we'll make your promotion official in 90 days. You can do a probationary promotion just to make sure. You don't have to just risk it all. So being actively involved with your company is the best thing you can do as an owner, because getting out there once a week, and maybe you can't get out there once a week, maybe you're busy, but getting out there when you have new faces in the company is really important. And no one's going to have the same interest in your company as you do. It doesn't matter who you hire on, because it's not their daddy, it's not their baby, it's not their bread and butter. They make an income here, but it's not their dream, it's your dream. And so no one treats your dream the same way you do. It's like nobody treats your patrol cars the same way you treat it, because you had to pay for it. They just jumping into it like it's a patrol car, like they're free, and driving around, and you let a few officers drive around your patrol cars. Next thing you know, maintenance isn't being done. There's dents and dings in it. They're speeding. They're tailgating. Because the human being is not perfect, and it never will be perfect. It's the person that has the invested interest in it that respects it. So the only way you're going to get that kind of respect for your stuff is to be out there watching. And, you might not be able to get out there every week, but at least get out there twice a month. All right. 2 days out of 30 days, 2 days out of 28 days, if it's February. I mean, come on. That's not hard to ask. And it could save you the loss of contracts, because discipline is a real cause for losing a contract. And I see that. I just had a discussion with someone the other day. It was actually yesterday, about how they were dissatisfied with their contract because the officers were sleeping. Some were in their personal vehicle instead of at their post. Maybe they were cold, warming up or whatever. So if your officers are cold, give them a better jacket. Take a couple bucks and go buy that guy. If he's sitting in a parking garage and it's cold in that parking garage and it gets windy down there, it's probably colder in the parking garage sitting still than the guy walking around outside who's moving around. He's probably not as cold as the guy just sitting around a bunch of concrete, in front of a big giant doorway. Give those officers, the appropriate attire to wear, or tell them they can wear, black long sleeve shirt under the uniform shirt. Tell them they need to get some gloves. Tell them they can wear a beanie cap or a ball cap or whatever it is. The uniform requirement for the state. In California, every state's different. So I'm going to speak in terms of California, regulated by the Bureau of Security Investigative Services. You have to have a patch on each shoulder. It can't be conflicting with law enforcement. So it needs to be approved by the state. You need to have a badge. It needs to have a company name. And each badge has to have its own individual number. That way, if someone's having a problem with you and with like a particular officer, employee, they can say, well, he was wearing badge number this, and that, and he didn't have a name, but I saw the number on his badge was, 962, and then you go, well, who was wearing badge number 962, so that's how they can identify him, and then you can figure out, what you need to do for discipline. I would encourage, when you bring a trainer in, also bring a CPR person in. Teach your employees how to do CPR. It can save a life, and it might even be your life, it saves, but it could save a life. It should know how to do CPR on adults, children, and infants. I really encourage companies to include that in training. And if every company started implementing, that's a good idea, but you should start training. You could get a CPR trainer in for real cheap. But hey, I'm going to conclude the show. I really appreciate you guys listening in. And this is Dan Shrigley signing out.